there anything in particular that we want to talk about?
This being kind of a first episode, probably just introduce ourselves and kind of discuss maybe our gaming histories.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tangled Crossroads. That's right, we're doing a thing. And I am joined by the great and the one and the only...
My name is Amadorn, everybody.
Oh, and I'm Kit. I should have probably said that. I don't think I did. But how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. This is actually a podcast that you started a while ago, and we're just kind of continuing it together.
Yeah, I think I started this back at the end of 2023 with a few friends of mine and just kind of ran out of time and didn't get back to it until now.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that I can help you on this journey of the Tangled Crossroads to revive it and talk more about TTRPGs and everything and whatnot about gaming.
Yep. So I've been playing D&D and stuff for a long time. How about you?
I've been playing probably not as long as you, but I've been playing for a pretty long time. Let's see. I started with, was it 2nd edition?
2nd edition? I remember when 2nd edition came out, yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, when I started, it was probably about 83, 84, somewhere around in there. I think it was middle school, junior high. Yeah, I started with the red box.
I wasn't born until 88. So, yeah, I would say you've been playing a little bit longer than I've been born. So,
oh, now I feel old.
I didn't mean to do that, but usually people make me feel old, so...
At least I'm not the only one.
Finally, I'm not the oldest. So you started with the red box?
Yep.
I don't even know what that is.
So it's essentially 1st edition, but it's not AD&D. It's basic Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, okay. I think I know what you're talking about.
So in the early and mid 70s, you had basically chainmail and the start of D&D. And I think it was about 81, 82 that they started putting I think the one I've got is like the 1983 version, and it's written by Frank Metzner and Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson and them. TSR. It had these 2 books in it. They were soft cover, probably 40, 50 pages each. One was your player's handbook, one was your DM's guide, and then the Keep on the Borderlands adventure was included in the box. And then you had your dice that you had to color in with the wax pencil and everything.
You had to color in your dice?
Yeah, the dice that came in the box didn't have the numbers filled in, so you had to fill them in yourself.
Oh wow, that's kind of, I never knew that.
I still have those dice. They still don't roll very well for me.
Oh no. Is it the full gambit of dice? Like the D4 to 20?
Yep.
Wow.
I don't think you got a D10, but I don't think you got the percentile D10.
Yeah, I feel like the D100 style like that is pretty new relative to dice.
I want to say that came out in like 2nd or 3rd edition, because there are percentile charts in 2nd edition.
There are. That's right. It's been a long time since I looked at 2nd edition books at all. I think I have them in my garage somewhere. Might have to dust them off and look at Thaco and be like, oh no.
Oh, don't even get me started on Thaco.
Math, the game.
Well, that's what a lot of D&D is. It's math.
That is true. So what originally brought you into D&D?
Well, I've always been a fan of sci-fi and fantasy novels and stuff like that, and storytelling in general, and gaming. I mean, I grew up playing board games, war games, the old war games like Africa Corps and the old SSI war games. And so when I got into junior high, a friend of mine was into D&D, and he'd gotten into D&D through our art teacher, our 7th grade art teacher. And she had the red box in the art room because, had some nice drawings and stuff in it. And I think she played. I don't think she had it just because of the art in it, but there was some pretty cool fantasy art in it. And so during lunch, we would go down to the art room and tinker around, make characters and play, and then just that's kind of how it started.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool. Now that you've been playing it for so long, do you like the inclusion of there being a computer element to it, or do you just like to stick with the old paper and pencil?
Well, I DM a lot, and so I actually use the computer. I take a laptop to my gaming sessions, both when I'm running a game and when I'm playing a game. I do use D&D Beyond for my character sheets. just because it's easier, especially when you've got dozens of characters.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, and for note taking, it's just amazing. I actually audio record my gaming sessions because I'm lousy at taking notes,
That's smart.
so that I can listen to them back as I'm planning my next sessions. In fact, I was actually doing that here earlier tonight. Because I'm planning for the next session that we're playing.
Oh, cool. I think that's how Critical Role started. Like, that was the whole reason why they started recording their sessions, was because they wanted to take notes better. And then people started watching them, and then now they're a multi-million-dollar streaming thing. So,
Yep.
so that's just kind of a smart thing to do, I would think, is record stuff so that you can keep better notes, and not even to stream it, just to, you know.
So how did you get into tabletop RPGs?
Okay, so I was probably in the 10-year-old range, and my brother got into it. Oh, actually, I was visiting one of my parents' friends in New York, and then my brother was playing a D&D with them, and there was like this whole spider adventure where my brother got stuck in a web or something like that. I ended up not playing because I think I was too young, but I thought that was such a cool thing, that game. And then later on, we just started playing, just me and my brother, and then a couple of our friends started joining, and then we started having like long running campaigns and everything. And yeah,
Nice.
yeah, that's how it started. Was my brother forced me because he needed somebody to play with, and then I discovered I liked it.
Cool. So I've got to ask the question: homebrew or pre-published?
Oh, all right. I like both almost equally, and the main reason why is because homebrew, I think, has like the better stories and everything like that. But pre-published, it is so easy just to pick up a module or something and then throw it into a pre-published thing, and so you can start a campaign super fast with pre-published. But if you have the time to homebrew, that's really cool to do. So I guess it kind of depends on how much time you have to set up.
That's true. For the games that I run, I generally do homebrew. Although, like, if I have a session where I've got a couple of players missing, but we still want to play, I'll pull out Tomb of Horrors and throw them in that and kill my characters or kill my players repeatedly.
Oh, the Tomb of Horrors is fun. Also cruel. I think the one that I remember going through and like losing lots of characters on. Oh no, I'm blanking on the name. It was a huge dungeon, and there's like 4 different factions. Why can't I think of it? No.
Oh, that sounds like
It's cults.
is Tiamat involved in that one? So there's Rise of Tiamat was like the first published adventure that 5th edition came out with. And they actually did it as 2 books. And there are several different factions in there, but you're kind of working around a cult that is trying to bring back Tiamat.
I do remember that one, but that one was not the one. It was Return to the Temple of Elemental Evil. Which I think was not 2nd edition. I think that one was like 3rd or 4th. No, it was probably 3rd.
I think that's 3rd because I've got a copy of that. I'm pretty sure that's 3rd edition.
And that one was really fun. That was like the biggest campaign I think I was on. The other one that was really fun that we did, we actually had 2 different groups. And so one group was good and one group was evil, but we didn't know that. And so we would like interact every once in a while with each other, but we would also do our own things. And that one was really cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that one was 2nd edition because we weren't able to get everybody together all the time. So we're like, oh, let's just split it up. And then my brother ended up DMing both of those. And
so I've got kind of something like that going on at the moment with the campaign that I'm running on Wednesday.
Ooh.
At one point, I was running 3 different campaigns every week in the same world.
Oh, wow.
All of them tied around basically this large invasion of the world that was going on from another world. And one of the 3 campaigns is actually still running, so we haven't finished it yet. But so I don't want to give just spoilers away, but
no spoilers.
A friend of mine is also running a campaign that I play in, and there may or may not be some connections between the 2 campaigns, as well as
cool.
the 2 campaigns that finished up that are in my world. So they're all kind of interconnected.
That's pretty cool. Whenever I DM, I usually use like the same world, and I just kind of like add 1,000 years to it and be like, oh, this is 1,000 years from the last campaign that I ran on it, and that way I don't have to think of too much. I just kind of have similar things going on,
Right.
And it's just kind of nice to have an established thing and being like, oh yeah, all the events happened before, and now here's all the new stuff.
Right. Yeah. I've got my own world that I use for my campaigns that basically everything happens within it. It can get a little mixed up when you're running more than one campaign at the same time.
So, with the fact that we're in 2025 and there are just as many TTRPGs as there are years in 2025, what is your favorite RPG to run?
It's probably D&D 5e. I know that's kind of bland and cookie cutter at this point, but that's the one that I run in constantly. I do like Modiphius's 2D20 system, Star Trek Adventures. I can't find anybody who wants to play Star Trek.
I love Star Trek, so.
But their system, they've essentially got the bones of a system that they've used for several different games with Star Trek, Dune, Fallout, John Carter of Mars, and I think they're working on a fantasy version as well. But it all uses this what they call the 2D20 system, and the only dice you roll are D20s.
Is this Star Trek Adventure 2nd edition?
Yes.
Or, okay.
It's the 2nd edition version.
Cool.
It's very rules light, and so I really like the system, but I haven't actually got to play it yet.
Yeah, funny thing that I've learned once reading in and playing all the different systems that there are is that D&D is needlessly more complicated than it should be, and there are so many other just more bare bones systems that work just as well.
Have you played Dungeon Crawl Classics?
I have not.
Oh, that one is so crunchy. Check out Dungeon Crawl Classics. It's that one is crazy, and that's a game. So when you start off playing DCC, generally you do what is called a funnel. So every player at the table plays 4 or more characters, and these are level 0 characters. And at the end of this funnel adventure that you go through, whichever character survived, those become your first level characters that you play.
Huh.
It's not uncommon for somebody to have all of their characters die.
Wow. Yeah, the most crunchy game I played was Warhammer Fantasy Role-Playing, the 2nd edition, which was released in 2005.
Yeah.
That one was really crunchy, where everything you do, you roll percentile dice, and then that depends on what other dice you roll to see if there's another dice that you need to roll. And then you just discover that your character died like a while ago.
I think Traveler is one that kind of does that. When you're creating your character, you kind of go through this career procession. Your character can die during character creation. You just accidentally hit old age or some event that Traveler's a sci-fi based adventure.
That kind of reminds me also of MechWarrior RPG.
I don't think I've played that one.
In MechWarrior, you start creating a character. I don't know if it's in the newer editions of it, but the older edition of it, you would start building a character, and during your MechWarrior training, you could potentially die or get your arm shot off or some other horrible stuff that stomping mechs shooting lasers will do to you.
I like BattleTech.
BattleTech, yes. BattleTech MechWarrior.
There are 2 versions of the same thing, basically.
Yeah. I think it just depends on who's talking on which one it's called. But yeah, BattleTech is, I think, actually the name of the thing, not MechWarrior. I think MechWarrior is something later.
I played the tabletop miniatures version of BattleTech. Thought it was kind of fun. I also play a lot of Warhammer, so...
Nice. What army?
Oh, it's got to be Adeptus Mechanicus. Oof. Sons of Mars.
Adeptus Mechanicus? I didn't know you were rich. Dang. Filled 3,000 pieces for one point?
That's pretty much any Warhammer army. Gotta give up a kidney for a decent-sized army. I don't get to play as often as I'd like to, but yeah, I've definitely got. I think I've got a 3,000 point army, but
oh, nice.
I haven't updated it in a long time.
That's pretty cool. Oh man, I used to play that in like 4th edition, and now they're on like 10th. And so I haven't played in forever, but I used to have orcs and Tau were
Oh,
the
yeah?
two that I had. And then I decided that I was going to get back into painting, so I started painting the Dirty Boys of Nurgle, well, Death Guard specifically. And
Nice.
then I discovered that they have the squats back, and so I was like, oh, I need to get them. So I started painting some squats. Volton, as they call them. Volton? It starts with
That
a
I
V.
don't. Yeah, that.
Leagues of something.
So one of my friends here, he spent like
Full-time,
3 or 4 years working at a grain silo, and he was working, let's see, ungodly hours, and was making a lot of extra cash. And so he ended up with a Tau army, an Orc army. I think he's got Space Marines. He's really heavy into Necrons. I want to say he's got 5 different armies, and I'm not talking small ones either.
Oh, wow.
All of his extra cash went into Warhammer minis. He's also got BattleTech. He's got the Fallout miniatures tabletop war game that I think Modifius did that. So yeah, he's really heavy into miniatures.
Yeah, I just really enjoy the painting aspect of the miniatures myself because, oh man, it's just so much fun to sit there and lick paintbrushes and put some paint on model.
I like painting too, but my eyesight is just getting to a point where it's really tough for me to do.
No pun intended, but I can see that. One of the games I actually recently got really into is Gaslands.
I've heard of Gaslands. I've not played it, but I've heard of Gaslands.
It is such a fun game to play. It's so simple, but you just take cars and ram them into each other and roll dice.
I have played its ancestor, and I have quite a few. I've got most of the books and stuff for it, which is Car Wars by Steve Jackson Games.
Oh, okay. Car Wars.
So Car Wars is basically tabletop miniatures, auto dueling at Mad Max, but we kind of turned it into an RPG there for a while. This goes back to like 7th and 8th grade. My friends and I, we had this. So Car Wars is set in a post-apocalyptic Earth. We found the aircraft carrier Enterprise. We dry docked it, put tank treads on it, and drove it around the country as our mobile base.
Nice. That's kind of funny that you mentioned you turned it into an RPG because that's basically what me and a group of friends are doing with Gaslands. Is that we're playing Cyberpunk and Gaslands. So we're all nomads on Cyberpunk, and then whenever we get into car battles, we just play Gaslands for the car battle sections of it.
Have you ever played the board game Vendetta or Thunder Road Vendetta?
No, but I've heard of that one. That was one that I was looking into that looked really cool.
Yeah, I've got a copy of it. It's fun to play.
So that kind of also brings me to a different point. Kind of with your background on everything, you used to own a gaming store. So you probably have a wide knowledge on multiple different types of board games and all these different types of games.
Yeah, for about 15 years as basically a side business to my day job, I owned a retail game store. Our location was not the best, and so we struggled, but it was, built up a fairly decent gaming group. I closed it last August, just so I could get a break, really. But yeah, I mean, board games, RPGs. We did a lot of Magic the Gathering and other collectible card games. We ran Friday Night Magic for a while. It even did some tournament level where like they were called PPTQs at the time. They were like pre-qualifiers for the big regional events that feed into the big Magic tournaments. So we did a few of those. But.
Oh, that's cool. I've played in a couple of those. Not at your store, of course, but in my own local store, I played in a few.
Yep.
Highest I placed was top 8 goes on, so I was 9th on one.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I was so close to making it into the top 8.
Yeah. I've never played in a PPTQ. I've never been a big competitive player when it comes to Magic, although my main deck is Red Goblins. Goblin Tribal.
Nice. Go wide with goblins.
I've got a Krinko deck that puts out tokens like mad. I've got a pretty good sized board game collection.
I would guess so. Did you get any discounts from owning owning the store?
Well, when I owned the store, sure.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Not so much. That's probably
No.
better for you own the store to supplement your gaming, right? That's how it worked.
Well, I mean, that's how I had to put together a D&D group. If I wanted to play D&D, I had to own a store and get people in there.
And now you already have the group. Now you don't need the store. That makes sense.
Yep. I mean, when I got out of high school, I went in the military, and when I came back, it was really kind of, I didn't move back to the same city that I grew up in, so I didn't have my gaming group, and I basically had to build one, and I did it through owning a retail store.
What part of the military did you go to? If you don't mind
I was in the
asking.
Air Force.
Air Force?
I was in the Air Force for 3 years.
Oh, wow. Did you play a lot while you were in the Air Force?
I did not.
Okay.
I ran into some personal habits that did not bode well. Yeah, the military was an experience.
Yeah, I did not do any military stuff. The closest I've done was wrestling in high school, so my hat's off to you for that.
I will say that I learned a lot about being an adult, and I learned a lot about myself during my time in the military. Even though some of my experiences were not good, overall, I feel like it was probably one of the best things I ever did.
Interesting. So, if there was any game that you could start, what would it be? Like any system, I know you kind of mentioned the 2D20 system, but is there a different system that if you could get people together to play, what would be your dream campaign?
Well, I hate to say it, but I probably have that going on with the D&D games that I play.
Oh,
The one that I'm running on Wednesday night is probably my dream game.
Oh, nice.
And then the one I play in on Thursday nights it ranks up there pretty high. Just having a game that I can go to every week and play, that's the dream for me.
That's the dream for almost anybody, I would say.
I would like to play more board games. I would like to branch out and play some other games. But yeah, I guess I'm kind of lucky that I've got my dream game going.
That's pretty cool. What's your favorite board game?
Oh gosh.
There's only like one or two to choose from, right?
Wow. I'm not sure I have a favorite board game. It's not really a board game per se. It's more of a social deduction game, but it counts. It's often counted as a board game, and that's Blood on the Clock Tower.
Oh, Blood in the Clock Tower is so good.
Yeah.
I actually have a group that I used to play with on Discord all the time until it like fell apart, but we had like 20 people that would just randomly get together, and then depending on who could make it would join in. But
yeah, so
that's
I went to GaryCon a couple of years ago up in Wisconsin at Lake Geneva, and I ran I storytelled Blood on the Clock Tower. Gosh, I did like 6 sessions or so throughout 3 days.
Oh, wow.
And I think each session was about two. I had 2-hour blocks, and most of the time I would get 2 games in during a 2-hour block. We ran Trouble. I ran Trouble Brewing, so I know Trouble Brewing like really good.
That's the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of the entry level beginner script that they've got.
Yeah, I ran through that one so many times.
It's a good one.
I think some of the other ones are a little bit misbalanced sometimes.
Maybe a little bit, but
as soon as you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I know that they've tweaked some of the others a little bit. Plus, they have all kinds of the experimental characters that they're supposed to be putting out. They've got the carousel product that they're putting out here, hopefully this year, that I'm kind of looking forward to. That's going to release all their experimental characters that they've been playing on their channels.
Oh, that should be pretty cool.
But I also I'm a big strategy gamer, worker placement games. Those type of games are kind of my thing. I've done all 3 versions of Pandemic Legacy. Gloomhaven, I've played Gloomhaven. Went through the group that I was playing Gloomhaven with. We got through most of the campaign, and I want to say there's only like 3 or 4 scenarios before we actually confront the gloom that we haven't done.
Oh,
but we had to take a break because I think we played that like 2 or 3 years straight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, Pandemic Legacy, 3 seasons. I only remember 1 and 0. Which one was 2?
So 2 is set basically you start off with a small part of the board and then you're trying to set up outposts and basically bring the world back.
Oh, that's cool.
And of course 0 is set like during the Cold War.
Yeah, 2 was really fun. I was surprised whenever it was set in like the Cold War, and it's very different than Pandemic. But it's very Pandemic. It's so weird how.
Yeah, Pandemic Season 1 is another game that I took to GaryCon, a few years back. I took a fresh copy and I ran the entire campaign over the weekend. And at the end of each game session, I had the players sign the inside of the box. And then at the end of the campaign, I did a random drawing, and that person got to take home the game.
Oh, that's cool. That's a really nifty way of doing that. How often is GaryCon? Well,
it's annual.
Annual. Okay.
I think actually it's it's usually in March.
Does that mean you've already went, or you're planning on going, or you're skipping it this year, or it's not?
I'm skipping it this year.
Okay.
March 20th and 22 to 23rd of 2025.
Wow. Well, now that we've talked for about 36 minutes, what is it that you think that we're going to talk about in the future with this? Like, what's our goal?
Well, I mean, gaming in general, tabletop RPGs, D&D. How about you?
I kind of feel the same, that we have this good knowledge between us of multiple different games and subjects, so we can talk about multiple different things depending on what we feel like at the time, I feel.
When I was doing this prior, I would bring on guests and we'd talk about things like, we'd talk about tips for GMing. We'd talk about, most of the time we'd end up telling stories from our games, but we talk about character agency and note-taking and session 0 stuff, kind of tips and tricks and kind of things that might help the audience to kind of get into gaming if they're new to it, or things that might help them improve their own sessions.
That sounds like great advice. What if there is one super simple advice that you could give for a new DM, what would it be?
As a new DM, just tell a story, tell a good story. Don't fret over the rules too much.
That's a great advice.
I tend to not be very rules heavy when it comes to being a DM. The rules are there to kind of help you and give you a framework and a common language between you and your players. They're not there to stop you from doing things that are fun and exciting. If your players come up with some crazy thing, then let them try. Let them roll some dice and then decide if it fails or not. I can tell you of an encounter. I wasn't the GM. I was actually a player. We were on a ship and basically fighting. I can't remember if it was a kraken or a dragon turtle, but it was one of the two. This giant sea creature, and one of our party members, a rogue, had gunpowder, and so I, playing a druid, got the gunpowder from him. Misty stepped into the mouth of the creature, lit the gunpowder, and then got back out. And then immovable rods. Immovable rods are like the bane of both my existence and my friend's DM existence. Do not ever give them to a party.
Oh, immovable rods.
Especially if you're on a ship. The rod will stop. The ship won't necessarily.
I can see how that could cause some issues for players and DMs alike.
Or anything with randomness to it. My Wednesday game, I've given one of my players it's essentially a D20. It's a magic item called the Rock of Randomness, and it functions a lot like wild magic, and so he can roll this D20, and I've got a chart that I change every so often, and it creates an effect.
Ooh, that's cool. So I really like your advice that you gave of not letting the rules hold you back from fun, because I think that's the biggest thing that people get really caught in, is that they are too invested in the rules that they forget that the point of the game is to have fun. And so rules lawyering, I think, can kill a game faster than anything else.
I mean, there are players out there where that is basically their thing. That the rules are that is their style of play. And if that's what they and their table like, go for it. But if you're just starting out, read through the player's handbook, get a basic understanding. You're gonna make a mistake. Don't worry about it. It's no big deal. Just keep playing and have fun. It's all about telling a story.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I describe D&D or tabletop RPGs to people. It's group storytelling with rules.
Yeah, come together to make a fun story and enjoy time with your friends.
So do you DM much or do you play mostly?
Okay, I prefer playing, I like being a character way more than I like DMing, but unfortunately I usually end up DMing more than anything because I'm usually the one that's the initiator, and so
Right.
the person who initiates ends up being stuck with the DM role. But
Understandable.
But I come from a theater background, and so getting into a character and then being that one character just is one of the things that I really, really enjoy because I can be in depth with it.
That's cool.
Like write a 20-page background that nobody else will read but me, and
Oh, I've done that. I don't have a theater background. It's something I've always wanted to try. I don't feel like I've got it in me to be on stage. But that and improv.
Improv is pretty fun. That's that's definitely something if you want to get good at anything. Like if you want to try doing stuff professionally, D&D wise, like if you want to be a professional DM, I would suggest taking improv classes because it helps you think on the spot, which is something that I think is pretty useful whenever you're a DM, is getting the creativity of it. But I would only suggest that like if you're trying to do it professionally. Like if you're trying to do it just for fun, you don't need to spend the extra money.
Right.
But yeah, I love improv and stage stuff. I did some stage theater where I was in my underwear on stage once. That was fun.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It was called The Visit was the name of the play that I was in.
Okay. Don't think I've heard that one.
Oh, and The Full Monty. I was also in that one.
I've seen the movie.
Yeah, I wasn't one of the main characters. I was one of the side characters that was trying out for that one.
I see.
Trying out.
I think the last time that I was ever actually in like a theater production was Charlie Brown Christmas, and it was probably 8th or 9th grade, and I was Snoopy.
So you didn't talk
So
much?
I just didn't have any lines.
Nice.
Got to dress up as a dog.
Yeah. Did you get to dress up as the Red Baron?
No, didn't do that part.
Oh, okay. So, what is one of your least favorite experiences while playing Dungeons and Dragons? Since we've been talking about all the positive and everything, like there's always sometimes whenever something like not enjoyable happens. Well, what would we say was your least favorite experience, and how did you handle it, or did you handle it?
I honestly can't really think of one. For D&D, I've had some negative experiences with miniatures games and board games, but
That's kind of impressive that you haven't had any in D&D. That's pretty cool. What about your board game one then?
well, with board games, I was playing let's see, Lords of Waterdeep with some friends at the shop, and one of the guys who was in the group was very much a rules lawyer.
Ooh, okay.
And we had a couple of house rules for Lords of Waterdeep that we played with, and so I was playing Xanathar, which if you don't know Xanathar in Lords of Waterdeep, instead of trying to get a positive score, you're essentially getting a negative score. Your score is backwards. And I was playing fairly well. I wasn't in the lead in the game. I wasn't in sort of any place to win the game. But we had a house rule with Xanathar, and one of the guys that I was playing with decided like halfway through the game that he didn't like the house and started arguing fairly strongly about it. And when we finished the game, we put it away and kind of, that was it. Well, that night he went on to Board Game Geek and called me out specifically in their forums.
Oh, wow.
And so I responded, and I haven't played with him since.
That's kind of crazy to be that upset about a homebrew rule. It's just like, oh, you didn't like that rule. Okay, let's not play with that way again. It doesn't need to be that big of a thing.
Right. It's like, okay, you don't like the rule. You don't like the way it played. Sure, we can discuss it and have an argument about it in person. But for you to drag it out to the internet, why?
Yeah, there's
of course,
a whole form into it. It's insane.
Yeah, of course, now I'm doing it here on this podcast, but Not gonna name him. And like with some miniature games and a couple of board games, I can get somewhat competitive. And when I get into that mode and I'm not doing well, then I don't want to say behave badly, but I start to become kind of a down person.
Okay.
And so I recognize it and I know when I need to step back away from it. It doesn't happen hardly anymore, but there are certain games that just drive me to that edge. Magic was one of them, which is one reason why I don't play Magic all that much anymore. Because
Magic can do that to a lot of people, it seems.
yeah, because I want to play games to have to interact with friends and have fun. And if I'm being a jerk, I'm not having fun, and neither are my friends. So
That's a great way to look at it. Other than Magic, what are the other ones that you try to avoid?
I don't play Monopoly. I will never play Monopoly. I have like half a dozen different copies of Monopoly, but I will not play it.
Do you not play it because it's a bad game, or do you not play it because
both?
Okay.
When I was a kid, I loved Monopoly because it was playing with money. But when you get to be an adult, you realize that's not fun.
It's like I'm bankrupt, and I'm bankrupt in the game. No.
Yep. Paying rent is not fun.
Man, I haven't played Monopoly in a long time.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of different copies of Monopoly, but they sit on the shelf and they look nice. That's about it.
Yeah, they're collectors. That's what those are for.
Yeah. Most of the games that I would normally avoid, I've kind of purged out of my collection. So
As you should, I would say.
other than the Monopolies, because a couple of the Monopolies I've got are collector's items. Like I've got a Star Wars Monopoly that is like it's a numbered edition.
Oh, that's cool.
So I got to keep all that. And then I've got the Klingon version of Monopoly.
That's cool. I didn't realize they made a Klingon version of Monopoly. That's
Catan is a game that I probably don't play very often. It's an okay game, but I feel like that the base version of Catan is kind of broken because nobody ever wants to trade.
Yeah, that is true. It's very hard to get people to trade, especially whenever they know what they're doing.
Right. Like you're only playing half the game because nobody trades.
I think with some of the expansions, it helps with that, though. I'm trying to think of which one. But
there is a Star Trek Catan that, and it's based around, it uses the Enterprise crew from Star Trek 2, but it has nothing to do with the Wrath of Khan. It just uses their character arc. But each of the bridge crew has an ability. You can use that ability basically twice before you have to give up that crew member to a pool and pick a different crew member.
Right.
You're building star bases. You're building basically trade routes and stuff like that. So
yeah, Star Trek Catan, I think, is one of the best versions of Catan, and weirdly one of the better Star Trek games.
Yeah. Star Trek doesn't lend itself well to games.
No, man, it feels like that would be really good in like computer games for it or something, but there's usually not much.
No.
A role-playing game, I could see it being like just spot on good, as long as you get people that actually like Star Trek.
That's true, and that's where I struggle with getting Star Trek Adventures off the ground. Is I just not enough of my friends are Star Trek fans at the same level as I am.
And those friends are wrong. Star Trek is the best.
Two types of sci-fi fans: the ones who like Star Trek and the ones who are wrong.
Yep.
No, I like Star Wars too.
Yeah, I like Star Wars. Man, actually, recently with all the new Star Wars stuff, I was like had like a midlife crisis or something where I was just like, do I like Star Wars at all anymore? Like, and I watched the original stuff. I'm like, yeah, okay, I like this. Maybe they're doing too much with it.
I despise episode 1, but I like episodes 6, 7, and 8. I don't think they're the best, but I like them. I think they're fun to watch, even though they don't fit along with most of the beta canon for the books. But I thought they were fun. The original trilogy, I don't think they'll ever be able to match the original trilogy for Star Wars. But
yeah, the original trilogy is basically the hero's tale set in a very down to earth space way. It's such a solid story that they started with, and making the hero's journey fantasy and then turning it into space. So it's almost like you're watching a fantasy while also watching a sci-fi. And that, I think, is actually really smart of them because it grabs both sides of that coin.
Right. And Star Trek has the same problem. Not all of their movies are hits. I really didn't like the Abrams version of the 2009 Star Trek. I didn't like it. I really didn't like Into Darkness, but I will still watch them because they're Star Trek. And while they're not my favorite versions, they're still kind of fun to watch. I will say one of my favorite Star Trek movies is actually probably Galaxy Quest.
Yeah, I think that's one of the movies that actually made me really enjoy Star Trek. Even though it's not Star Trek.
The best Star Trek movie is probably The Wrath of Khan. But yeah, Galaxy Quest is probably in I want to say it beats a lot of Star Trek. It beats a lot of the regular Star Trek. And then the Orville's, I consider the Orville a Star Trek series, even though it's not.
Orville for the longest time was the most like Star Trek thing that we've had in a long time, that I thought, because they brought the new series like Discovery and Picard, but those didn't feel like Star Trek to me. They felt different because they were less episodic, I think is probably it, and less deep meanings and all just one story. While like Orville it was funny that it had that on it, but it also had that episodic nature and it had the philosophy in it, which I think is part of what makes the Star Trek really good. The new one that came out, Strange New Worlds, feels like the most Star Trek that I've seen in a long time.
It's definitely the closest to the original series, and I do really enjoy Strange New Worlds. I think the last two seasons of Discovery are okay. I feel like Discovery should have started in the 31st century.
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't have been a prequel series. And I will never forgive them for what they did with the Klingons in season 1 of Discovery. I just don't.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that. Enterprise, I liked Enterprise, even though it got, boo-hooed a lot when it was out, in the early 2000s. Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks is a blast.
Oh, Lower Decks is great. Prodigy, it was actually pretty good, too.
Have you seen season 2 of Prodigy?
I have.
Oh, that is so good.
Yeah, it was surprising. Like, season 1, I was like, oh, this is okay, but season 2, it got so good. And I'm glad they brought back my favorite captain. Oh, no, okay, not my favorite captain. My third favorite captain. Captain Janeway.
Yeah.
My thought process was like, no, Jean-Luc Picard's my favorite, and then I was like, do you know what, Pike I think is my second favorite now. So
yeah, I don't know. I think Pike on Strange New Worlds almost pushes Kirk out of the center seat for me.
I like Picard and Pike better than, and Janeway better than Jean-Luc, or from Kirk. Yeah. Although they got the new person they got for Kirk in Strange New Worlds is actually pretty good.
Yeah, I would actually really like to see him in a series as the lead.
That would be cool.
I'd like to see where that went. I've probably got a lot of nostalgia when it comes to the original series because that's what I grew up on. I mean, it was in reruns at the time that I was introduced to it, but it was, Mom would lay on the couch and watch the show, and I would sit on the floor and watch, and that was the thing that her and I had. That and MASH and Cheers, and gosh, I would come home from school and watch Gilligan's Island.
Oh, Gilligan's Island.
I can sing that theme song, and no, I won't.
Any final thoughts that you have on this first voyage into our new journey together in Tangled Crossroads? Which I like the name. It works for sci-fi and fantasy pretty well.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you where it comes from.
Oh, cool. That's a good story to end on.
So, in one of my in most of my D&D games, there is a tavern called the Tangled Crossroads, and it is generally manned and owned by a minotaur named Amadorn.
Hey, I know that.
I can't remember who wrote the books, but there is a kind of a sci-fi series out there that is based around this, it's like Calhoun's Crossworld Diner or something like that. And it is this 50s style diner that sits out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the multiverse, and it connects everything together. And that's kind of what I see the Tangled Crossroads being, is this gathering of everything, whether it be my campaign worlds or, and there's this one character who kind of runs the bar, and he kind of looks out and, like the Watcher in Marvel, just keeps an eye on everything.
That's pretty cool.
That's where the Tangled Crossroads comes from.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Tangled Crossroads Revisited, Mark II, and you'll join us on the next time whenever we talk about something different. Not sure what it is yet, but you'll get to discover it probably as soon as we do.
We'll have to come up with that topic list.
Yeah, we'll get a topic list together and then get some guests on eventually, and we'll have some great conversations, and we'll get some nice things of what you should do as a DM, what you should do as a player, what you should do to have fun, and maybe more Star Trek talk. Who knows? It's all a tangled web that we weave on this windy road to the tangled cavern, the crossroads.
And it was good talking to you.
Yeah, it was good talking to you too.